All right, big topic today, how to tell anyone anything. There's so many things that I would love to say to somebody, and thankfully I've never had to say. But if I did need to say it, how do you do it? I thought we'd bring the author of How to Tell Anyone Anything, Rich Gallagher, on with us. He's a communication skills expert. He's taught over 10,000 people how to handle these difficult situations. Hey, thanks for coming back on the show, Rich.
Hi, Wayne. Hi, Jayne. Great to be back.
All right, so when we talk about how to tell anyone anything, what are we talking about?
Well, it's about giving people power in situations where they normally feel powerless, using some very powerful techniques from psychology that are a lot more similar to what hostage negotiators and psychologists use in difficult situations than what you and I normally would.
Okay, so that would be, we can talk, we can bring things up with our bosses, we can bring things up with our coworkers, which I imagine would be the two most difficult to tackle.
Absolutely. So really, if you follow 3 steps, you have a very good chance of changing the way that people behave. Changing someone's attitude is hard. Changing your linguistics is easy. So the first step I look at is start the conversation in a safe place. Let's say you've got a backstabber who's gossiping about you, and the reason he's gossiping about you is you actually just do a better job than this person. A safe place to start that's totally on topic would be something that speaks to that person's interest, like, do you feel you're getting enough credit for your work? You're going to get an earful of the other person's side of the conversation, and that's wonderful, because then you can go to the next step of the process, which is acknowledge the other person, not the same as agreeing with them, every time they open their mouth. Because the reason people argue with you is they're trying to get you to see their view of the world. And when you make it clear that you do see their view of the world, they have nothing to argue with you about.
That's a good point.
All right, and then we go to the third point, which is...
Now we get to the fun part, which is talking about the situation you want to change. And you're going to win at this if you do it factually instead of emotionally. I'm going to use a sports analogy. I mean, the Vancouver Canucks did great last year, but they didn't get the Stanley Cup. What do people say about them? They say they choked, they stunk. Not only are those scary phrases, they're useless because there's no such thing as an anti-stink drill or a non-choking procedure, so they can't fix anything about that. So what really happened was they got a critical penalty. The other team had a better shots on goal percentage. You can fix those things. So let's say that you have a coworker that stinks literally. If you say you stink up the place, that's going to make them defensive. But if you boil it down into facts and say things like, I'm more sensitive when people get active and sweaty, and where can we go with this? Suddenly you're in a productive dialogue that has a much better chance of changing what you want to change.
Do you have to worry? I just worry about hurting somebody's feelings by bringing anything up. And I know Jayne, and I know most people are like that.
And you know what's really amazing, Wayne, is that if you unpack the dialogue, and you do this with a pencil and paper before you ever open your mouth with the other person, and workshop it until it feels really, really good for both people, it's possible to go through a painless discussion on even really difficult situations. If you have a toxic boss, that's a candidate for what I call the perfect neutral opening. What bugs you about other people? Yeah. And so you can open up all sorts of wonderful things to acknowledge and validate, so you can then get factual and say, I want to give you everything you want, boss. I don't fare well under criticism. Where can we go with that?
Oh. As you make it up to them.
Exactly. And I didn't just make this stuff up. This is based on some fairly recent trends in what we call strength-based psychotherapy. I'm a practicing therapist as well as a public speaker, and we do exactly the same kind of things in therapy sessions as you can do in the workplace.
Jayne has a question.
Well, no, one of the, I think we're talking about was smelly breath, but I mean, for people that could be like a health issue. Is that something you would try to bring it up that way? Or?
Very much so, Jayne. One of the things about that is that when you're thinking about what to say in that situation, very often you should really be thinking about what you can ask, because you want to take a learning posture and learn from the other person. If you find out that they have a medical problem, that becomes a very different discussion than if they're militant about not cleaning their clothes or if they're just not aware of their hygiene.
Okay, the book walks me through all of this, doesn't it?
Step by step.
That's the best way to have it, because there's so many conversations people would probably love to have, and it would make their work environment so much more comfortable instead of feeling stressed and like they hate their jobs.
And you know what's amazing is that it's popular here in the U.S. where I'm from, but it's really hot in Canada. It was one of the top 250 books a couple weeks ago, and I think it's because of that Canadian politeness.
Okay, well, we like that. Okay, they can just go to the website. In fact, they can even have some free stuff there. HowToTellAnyoneAnything.com. Rich, thank you so much for being on the show.
Great to be back.
A pleasure. Bye-bye. Rich Gallagher, the book again, HowToTellAnyoneAnything.com. Go check it out.